What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chaotic Minds. As always, it's Winged.
And the midget.
And it's,
It's been a few weeks.
yeah, well, no, because we did one last week.
No, we didn't.
We didn't?
No, we
Oh.
were all sick.
That's right. I apologize. We apologize for not having a show last week.
We were kind of like,
Dipping in between the bedroom and the bathroom.
yeah, pretty much. Between you, our son, me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Having one bathroom is not recommended
no.
with a house full of sick people.
So, I'm going to do a little teaser. Not really spoil it, but do a teaser. We do have something that we are going to announce at the end of the episode. So stick around if y'all want to hear what the announcement is.
I don't even remember what the announcement is.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing I remember.
Well, I will start off. I do want to apologize that next week we may or may not have a show, depending on how my brain is functioning, because I have to, unfortunately, go to court next week. So, yeah.
Anyways, so we're doing this week. It's our monthly Am I the Asshole? Because technically it's the last week. It's the last Friday of the month. And, we wanted to make sure that we got this in for you.
Yeah.
So, I got a couple stories lined up here. So let's just jump into the first one. You ready?
Yup. Let's do it.
Am I the asshole for refusing to watch my nieces and nephew in an emergency?
Kind of dickish, but go on.
My 29 male brother, 35 male Jim, and his wife, Sue, 32 female, have 3 kids under the age of 7. Jim and Sue live around 10 minutes from me, and I watch my nephew and nieces regularly when Sue goes out or needs a break. Jim works night shifts and can't have his phone on him due to the nature of his job. A few weeks ago, Sue showed up on my door with the kids asking me to watch them around midnight. She said her mom had been taken to the hospital, her dad was there as well, and she needed to go see her. I said no due to the fact that I was drunk and had smoked weed just before they arrived. I didn't know they were coming. It was a weeknight, but I had old friends in town, and we had been catching up at a bar. I usually don't drink much, and not at all during the week, but I had about 4 beers and was almost stumbling and almost obviously drunk. I'm also not known to smoke socially, as it really makes me tired and quiet, and I usually just smoke and go straight to bed as it helps me sleep. Sue begged me to change my mind as it was an emergency, and she said her kids were all going to be asleep anyways, but at the moment they are all awake on my doorstep. I told her I couldn't and closed the door even though she was crying, as I didn't want the kids to see me in that state. She blew up at me via text around an hour later as she'd finally gotten a hold of Jim to come home. She's calling me a selfish monster as her mom could have died, and she wouldn't have been able to say goodbye since I refused to watch her kids who would have just slept anyways. I don't think I was in any state to watch the kids, and I get that it was an emergency, but I don't want to be drunk and high in front of my nieces and nephews. If they needed anything, I don't know that I would have been sober enough to take care of them. Jim is also upset that he had to leave work and come home and mad that I said no and told me he'd never be there for me in an emergency if this is how I'm going to treat them. They haven't allowed me to see my nieces and nephews because obviously I don't care about them, according to Jim and Sue. Edit. I did tell Sue at the door that I was not sober, and that's why I wasn't comfortable watching them.
No, definitely not the asshole.
No.
He did the right thing.
Yeah.
He was not in a state where if something would have happened to one of the kids and he was drunk and high trying to take care of them, he wouldn't have been able to safely take them to the hospital. He wouldn't have been able to safely take care of them at all.
Yeah.
And he knew that, so he told her no.
I mean, our kids are like in their late teens.
Late teens.
We have one kid who's, early 20s, and I still
almost 20.
I still don't drink. Like, I won't drink until they're in bed or they're done for the night. Like, I might have like a drink.
Yeah.
Once they're like laying down or
once
they're
everything's
settled
chill.
in,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But I don't do it when you're not here.
And safety-wise, it's like I don't even do it when they're awake. That's a main rule I've always had.
So it's one of those things where it's just like, I wouldn't trust myself, because being in an inebriated state, whether it's because you're high or you're drunk, you can't. If some emergency was to happen, you wouldn't be able to take care of anybody. And God forbid the police show up to the police have to get called for something.
And you're inebriated.
Those kids are gone.
Yep.
And now not only are the kids gone and in police custody until they can reach out to the mom or the dad.
Yep.
But then that's another, at this point, 3 charges tacked onto you for child endangerment.
Yep. And the thing is like, she could have, yes, it was an emergency. Her mom was in the hospital. But what's to say that they don't have the right to say goodbye to their grandparent?
Yeah.
For one. For two, she could have gone to the hospital and been there in case something happened and waited for her husband or somebody else to be able to take over. There's no way that he is an asshole in this situation, because he knew he was inebriated and he told her as much, and he told her the reason why. And if he's not comfortable doing that, and it's understandable why he's not comfortable doing that, then there should be no reason that they should be this pissed at him.
They really shouldn't. I mean, I can understand being upset because,
everything that's going on.
Emotions running high, all that kind of stuff. But, like, there have been occasions where I've been, you've been upset about something, and you're able to separate out, like, hey, I'm hot about this, but logically it makes sense why they said no.
Yeah.
I've done the same thing. I'm hot about being told no or having an inconvenience done to me, but logically I understand the
why?
Logistics.
Yeah. And it's like that makes no sense. He was inebriated. He told you as much. It wasn't safe for those kids to be there. Period.
It sounds to me like both of these parents are entitled. Like, you're going to watch my kids. I don't need to even ask you. You're going to watch my kids.
And it's like they're holding it over him. You didn't do this for us, so you're not going to get to see them.
Not only that, but if this is the way that you're going to treat us, then don't call me if you're in an emergency. Like, that's your brother, man.
That's fucked up.
Like, me and my sister, we might butt heads all the time, but she knows, and I hope she knows, that if she calls me, hey, I need your help, cool. Is
what do
it
you
financially need? Or is it something need to be taken care of?
Yeah.
When it needs to be taken care of. All right, give me a few hours. Let me see what I can pull together. Let me see what I can do. And
exactly, and it's the same for me. Like, I might not get along with your sister very much, but if she called and said, hey, this is what's going on, I don't feel comfortable talking to the rest of them about this for whatever reason. Hey, can you help me out? And I wouldn't hesitate, because family is family.
Yep.
But being inebriated, if she asked me to watch The Little Nugget, I would be like, no, I've been drinking and I smoked a little weed, or I had an edible, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And I would tell her the same thing. I don't feel comfortable watching him with me being intoxicated.
Yep. So some of the comments on it. First one, not the asshole for saying no because you were intoxicated / inebriated, but, and then I quoted, I said no due to the fact that I was drunk and had smoked weed just before they arrived. Did you tell them that you had a bit to drink? You didn't have to tell them about the weed, but maybe if they knew why you said no for the safety of the kids, they would have understood. And then they quoted, Jim is also upset that he had to leave work and come home. And then they follow that up.
Those are his kids. Sorry.
Does Jim just expect anyone and everyone to do what he says so he doesn't have to?
I agree with that one.
OP responded, I did explain to my sister at the door that I was not sober. Somebody else responded, not the asshole. That's dumb of her to want to put her own kids in danger. Good on you for looking out for your nieces and nephew, because it seems your sister-in-law didn't care. Does your brother know all the details? Somebody else responded.
Let's face it, she probably didn't tell him the details.
Oh, she probably omitted part of it. Just that way she could.
Didn't look like the asshole in the
Well, no,
situation.
that way she could justify calling him a monster and being all pissy. Somebody else said something that we had touched on. Also, CPS could have gotten involved as she left the kids with OP. Kids require a sober caregiver. But yeah, so I mean, I'm looking over the
general consensus.
Not the asshole, and it even states on the top of the post that general consensus is not the a-hole.
Yep.
All right.
Dun dun dun.
Yep,
Next one.
Well, I'm waiting for it to load. Well, never mind. That one has been removed.
Okay. There you go.
So moving on to the next one.
Okay.
All right. Am I the asshole?
Thank God you had 5 of them pulled up, right?
Yeah. Am I the asshole for uninviting my parents to my wedding after they said they would be leaving early to throw a separate celebration, in quotation marks, at their house?
The fuck?
So, OP goes, me and my girlfriend just got engaged after almost 9 years of dating and are planning on having our wedding spring of next year. This was 2 days ago, so spring of 2025. With this, we have begun planning the wedding, and one of the topics came up if we want kids at our wedding. We are both the oldest kids / cousins in our families, and with this, have had multiple little kids at every major event in our lives. We decided that we do not want young kids under 10 to attend the reception, as we want to have a more adult style of reception. When mentioning this to my mother, she was not happy with the decision we made, as some people will have to leave early because of the no kids rule. There are 3 families that are invited that have kids under 10, with a total of 7 kids under 10. Me and my fiance were expecting at least one of the parents, if not both from each family, to leave early to take care of their kids, and we're completely okay with this as they have other responsibilities to tend to.
Which is common sense.
Now my mother is saying that her and my stepdad will be leaving early so they can throw a separate celebration at their house, so that the people that are forced to leave since they have kids have somewhere else or have somewhere to go and can still have a good time. With this, she is telling most of the guests from her side of the family, about 50 of the 125 invited, that they should come to her party instead of the reception.
That's fucked up.
After hearing this from her, we got into a heated argument with her saying she is doing what she feels is right and doesn't need my permission to throw a celebration. It ended with me saying, you are choosing to throw a quote-unquote celebration at the same time as our reception against our wishes, which you don't need our permission for. You're right about that. But if you're going to leave early because you feel that it is the right thing to do, again in quotations, you can just not worry about coming to the wedding in the first place. Because I certainly feel the right thing to do would be to support your kid's wishes on his wedding day instead of leaving early to go
celebrate with them.
Else.
Celebrate with them, not exclude everything.
This is very difficult for me to accept, as I have always imagined my parents being there on my wedding day, but at the same time, we do not want her there. She's just going to leave early to go party somewhere else and take half of our guests with her. Edit. For those suggesting us getting a babysitter, we have suggested that to the 3 families, all of which are from out of state, and none of them are comfortable with leaving their kids with a babysitter who they don't know, which we completely understand. We also told them that if their kids / families cannot make it due to the no kids thing, we completely understand and will have no hard feelings.
Which is the common sense thing. I mean, I wouldn't be comfortable with leaving my kids that young with people I didn't know. Hell, I didn't leave them with people I did know.
So, are they the asshole?
No, not at all. Like, they are not the asshole at all, because the parents, they are right in one thing. The children are right in one thing. The parents aren't right at all. They are right in the fact that, yes, the parents don't need permission to throw a celebration. But to slight them and throw it at the same time as their reception because they aren't allowing children under a certain age, then yeah, they have all rights to uninvite them from their wedding. It's not cool that you're going to underhand their celebration by throwing another one.
And I happen to agree. I mean, like, here's the thing. Weddings are about the bride and the groom.
Yes.
Two families merging together through children. It is not about the mother-in-law on either side.
Ain't none of them making a decision for us.
It's not about the father-in-law on either side. It's not about the sisters or the brothers or the children, like their nieces and nephews, or a cousin or anything else like that. It is about the bride and the groom. And
their children together if they happen to have children together.
So, no. Mom, like, planning, if parents are helping plan it, then sure, they can have some input on what's going on, what is being chosen, what a theme might be. They can
have some insight.
They can go ahead and give their opinion on that. However, at the end of the day, it is a celebration about two people, not two people plus this person. It's about the two people who are marrying each other because they have that much love for each other. And it's their wedding. It's their day. They can make the rules up. My big thing here, or what I would say, just to be spiteful, is, okay, I'm going to invite a bunch of my friends over to your birthday.
Well, we don't like those ones.
Well, I'm inviting all these friends, and if you don't allow me to invite them, then I'm going to go celebrate
your birthday
with my friends at my house.
Yeah.
And mazel tov to my friends, let's go pour one out for the mama.
Yeah, that'd be kind of funny. That's something I'd do.
Like I said, just to be spiteful. But the mom is the asshole here.
Yeah,
and
very
if the dad
much
is
so.
going along with it, the stepdad is going along with it, then he's the asshole too.
Funny thing is he probably is like, this bitch is crazy.
Here's what I found. Or here's what I found in reading a bunch of these stories or interacting with people. Stepdads are one of two things. Either they are so very much in the back pocket of the mom, that yes honey, no honey, they're yes men. Anything
they're going to go along with whatever the wife says.
Yeah, anything that the wife says, I must agree with it because insert whatever.
I don't want to cause problems.
Or there are three options. Second option is that they're a hard ass. Everything has to be their control. They have to do everything by what the stepdad says. I must establish my dominance in this family. Or they are, I love you, honey. I'm going to back my children. Or I'm going to back the children. If the dad
and
is,
that's the way it needs to be.
If the dad's in that mindset, I'm going to protect my children. Well, they're mine. Excuse you. I came in here and I've helped you raise these children. They're mine too. My dad did that with my mom. Like I remember, like I was almost sent to military school a few times when I was growing up because I was a knucklehead kid who got into fights, would steal, would argue, throw attitude, whatever, just because I didn't care. And my mom's like, I'm gonna send your ass to military school. And it wasn't until years later when I was an adult that I found out my dad was the reason. He was the reason why I didn't go. He looked at my mom and said, he's not going. Well, you can't make that decision about my child. Excuse you, he's my kid too. And put a stop to it. And my dad married my mom after my mom had me and my sister. I knew who my sperm donor was up until I was 8. I'd go see him. I'd have my dad, and he'd always be there, being my dad farting up the stairs while he's right in front of me, so that way I catch egg in my face, rotten egg in my face.
Yeah, that sounds like your dad.
Playing pranks, jumping, hiding behind corners and jumping out and scaring us, or, laughing and getting scared when we did the same thing to him, because payback on both ends, the farting on the stairs in front of him or hiding around corners. My dad was always there for us growing up. He taught me how to shave. He taught me, he imparted lessons of right and wrong. He tried to get me to stop smoking, and that didn't happen.
Now aren't they smoking?
Yes, they're back to smoking. But
see, I'm not smoking cigarettes anymore.
I am. Fuck you. I don't look good in orange. But it wasn't until I still considered my sperm donor my dad up until I was 8, and he decided, you know what, I don't want to deal with this anymore, so he left. It took me a little bit, I'll say, probably about a year, and my dad was there every step of the way. And my dad is my dad, regardless.
You don't have to create the life to be in the life.
If something was to happen, he'd still be my dad. I
hate to say it, and this is the reason that when the time comes and we do get married, that if we have an actual bigger wedding, I would want your dad to walk me down the aisle, because my dad is not a part of my life.
Yeah, and that's a conversation that you have to have with him.
Yeah.
But overall, between us, this OP, not the asshole.
Not at all.
Some of the comments, holy shit. First one, whoa, that's fucked. Your mother is intentionally trying to sabotage your wedding out of spite because you don't want children at your wedding. Are your guests likely to snub your wedding in favor of her party? You should outline to your mother how this action will have a lasting impact on your relationship with her, and her presence around your kids, if any, will be limited because your trust in her is broken by this. OP responded to that, saying, I guess probably 50% of the guests will favor her party and go to it, since a lot of her friends that I grew up around are invited. Somebody went ahead and was like, think of it as an opportunity to save some money. Don't invite any of your mom's friends or distant relatives that you think will go to your mom's party. Heck, have a much smaller wedding. Just call around them and ask. And you already know this, but your mother is crazy.
That's funny.
Somebody went ahead and responded to that one, said, no. Invite them. They'll feel guilty enough to send a present, but we'll go to mom's party instead. Win-win.
Yeah, that's an idea. It's like getting the address to all the local millionaires and sending them wedding invitations. 99% of the time they won't come, and they'll still send a nice, expensive gift.
Yep. So, comment section, general consensus, not the asshole. So, there's that. All right. So, the next story is as follows.
Hold on. I want to go back to this one real quick because I have opinions. I kind of agree with most of the commenters in saying that they should just invite them anyway. And then when they go to the mother's party, be like, okay. Or tell the mother that if you're going to have a party and they bring the gifts to your house, those are still our gifts.
Yeah.
Because rightfully so, they are their gifts. They were there for their wedding. And if his parents or her parents, whoever's parents they are going to do this, then that's not something you want around your family when you're trying to build something.
No. And, I'll agree with that, Don't allow toxicity to surround you, especially if...
Even if it is family.
Yeah, especially if it's family.
You have the right to cut toxic people out of your life, even if they are biologically related to you.
And I've done that to the entire sperm donor side of my family.
Yeah.
I
still want to invite him and rub it in his face.
Because that not only will we have a wedding, but then we'll also have to watch the cops show up.
No, we'll have a wedding and a funeral.
Anyways.
Anyway.
Next story.
Go on.
Am I the asshole for disrupting my mother-in-law's sleep as she was staying with us and refusing to change our sleeping arrangement?
What the fuck?
My mother-in-law, Jane, 59 female, came to pay us a visit a couple of days ago. We couldn't make it up to their house for Christmas, and she decided to spend a few days with us to catch up. For the context, I, 34 female, take calls quite often. A day when I'm on call includes my phone ringing at a pretty late hour and me having long conversations over the phone. I often have to just get dressed and leave, so it can be pretty loud. I don't want to disturb my wife, Bella, 33 female, or our kids, 3 and 5-year-old girls, during their sleep. We got ourselves a system. So for days when I'm on call, I'll go sleep in my reading room downstairs. It's basically a room with my textbooks and journals, a desk, and a bed. Our bedroom and the kids' rooms are upstairs. This way, I don't disturb anyone, and I sometimes even get to catch up on work. For the days that she was with us, Jane was staying in the guest room close to my reading room downstairs. I was on call, and I answered the phone through the night as usual. I had to leave the house around 3 a.m. The next day when I came home, Jane was very annoyed with me, and she said she heard me throughout the whole night, had heard me talk and pace around the room like a madwoman, and heard me get into my car. She said she almost did not sleep at all. Bella tried to calm her down, but she was really upset and said Bella herself couldn't take being near me, which is why she banished me downstairs for these call days. I apologized and said I was sorry. Jane insisted she wasn't sleeping anywhere near me during my call days ever again and called it a restless night. I said I would be on call for a few more days while she was staying with us, and unless she had a plan, I would be sleeping downstairs. I don't wish to change the current arrangement we have, mostly because Bella is exhausted as is, and I want her to get as much sleep as she can. Jane said maybe I need to be more present and support Bella more as her wife and the mother of our children. Was I the asshole?
No, not at all.
So
this person came to visit. They knew what kind of a schedule you had. They knew the system you had in place, and they still are bitching.
Here's what I'm willing to wager. They didn't know about the arrangement. Hence the reason why Jane went ahead and said you were your wife, her daughter, banished you downstairs.
Yeah, no.
Like that's not terminology for, oh, I understand what's going on, that kind of stuff. That is very much you were banished and kicked out of your own bedroom because you're keeping her awake. You're keeping my daughter up and all that kind of stuff. That's why I'm willing to bet she didn't know that they have a schedule going on. That being said, you come into my house and want me to change my thing to convenience you.
Not no, but hell no.
If you want to do that personally, go find a hotel.
You can still visit.
Like my grandparents used to come down and visit us all the time when I was younger, my mom's parents. And we would spend like a week or two prior to them coming down, cleaning the house, getting everything organized, getting everything all nice looking, getting into a rhythm and a pattern. And
presentable.
Whatnot. Well, not only presentable, but my Nonna used to go around and just clean everything.
And you wanted her to be able to relax.
She would organize the mail. She would stick it in places and then not tell us where she stuck it. And there was a couple bills that my mom and my dad got behind on because they didn't know where the bill was because my Nonna hid it. Granted, she didn't hide it on purpose, but it still was hidden. And my mom would complain about it all the time. And then when finally my dad went ahead and looked at her, he's like, well, then why don't you say something? And she goes, well, they're my parents. I can't. And eventually my mom did say something to her. I will say that much. And just the look on my Nona's face was like, well, why didn't you say something sooner? And my mom just deadpanned. Like, really?
Because even as adults, we look at our parents and we don't want to tell them anything that's going to upset them or make them think less of us or...
Shit, when your mom came out a couple of years ago,
yeah,
I was the same way. Like, I was super excited to show her something that I did with my grandparents, and maybe introduce her to a game or get her to play a game that she hadn't played in a while. We didn't even make it through the first hand, and she was getting all pissy, and it's just like...
And this is something that I probably should have mentioned to you. My mom has it's not...
A competitive streak?
No, it's kind of like a learning disability where she doesn't really get the premise of some games, even after it being explained to her like 4 or 5 times. It's like this mental block where she hears you, she understands the words that you're saying, but she still doesn't get it. And she's always been that way. Card games, all the time. Like, board games, she can clearly see the road laid out. She can clearly see the rules and stuff like that. But when the rules have to be given to her verbally, like with most card games, we never really did play card games as
Here's
a
my
family.
question. How do you think your mom would be if we played Dungeons and Dragons?
She'd lose her shit.
What are the rules? Whatever I say goes. Okay, well, I'm going to do this. Roll for it. Why do I have to roll for it? Because I said so.
Yeah, and
I have no doubt that she would storm away like she did.
Yeah, it's always been weird like that. We've never really played card games, like, ever. She didn't even play Rummy because she'd get frustrated with even Rummy. And, like, card games were non-existent in my house. Board games, however, were always there.
Although that does lead me to the question, how do you think my parents would act or react to playing a D&D game?
I think your parents would be a little more receptive to it, except for the fact that...
I think my mom would have a blast.
They would have a blast once they got into it, but
I think my dad would try to rules lawyer everything.
Yeah, but it's like they would have a blast.
He would get it eventually, and he'd be like, "Oh, okay," and you realize that.
And then he'd roll right over us.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'd have a blast. But I think the negative connotation that Dungeons and Dragons had for the longest time,
the satanic panic.
The satanic panic, with their generation, that I think it would be a little hard to get them to play it in the first place. But once they did, they'd be like, "Oh, this isn't satanic at all." Like, this is
besides
imagination.
I think a lot of it would go into, like, there are different gods, but at the same time,
but they'd understand it's a fantasy world.
Yeah. So what is your overall judgment? Pass thine judgment.
OP's not the asshole. The guest in the house is the asshole. Sorry. It's like, granted, and I will say this, it might be a little controversial, but I think the wife's a little bit of an asshole too. Especially if she didn't explain what their arrangement was and why they do things this way. Because if she would have explained that, there may have been a little more of an understanding and less of an issue.
I can see that. Judgment from me is a little bit of an asshole. Not a complete asshole, but slight. However, overall, the comments are, while there is speckles of not the asshole. Overall consensus is OP is the asshole. So I'm going to read one comment that says that they are, and one that is a follow-up to or a response to the asshole one that is saying that they're not the asshole. So first and foremost, you were sleeping somewhere else on the nights you were on call is supporting your wife and children. Growing up, both my parents have been on call at various points during my childhood, and letting their partner and kids in nearby rooms sleep throughout the night by having another place to sleep like you have set up was a huge act of compassion they did for each other. Don't worry about your standard plans being a bad thing. However, your mother-in-law is an invited guest into your home. You should not insist that she come up with a different plan or else you won't change a thing. It's not her house. It's not her routine. It's not her job to be that's on call. Simply put, it is not her responsibility to figure out a compromise. It is yours. So while not an asshole for the normal situation you have in your home with your family, you're the asshole for putting it on your guest to solve the problem you are creating.
That I agree.
Buy a $15 white noise machine for your guest room or your office. Have the kids sleep with your wife or in one room together as a special fun treat the remaining nights you are on call, and let your mother-in-law have the kids' room. Take the calls outside or further away from mother-in-law's room. This is a temporary issue where you can be accommodating for a few nights. It's not like it's for months at a time. The response. Except it doesn't sound like the mother-in-law was an invited guest, unless I read that wrong. Not the asshole for them, asshole for the mother-in-law in that case. Somebody said to that, that's the way I read it. She invited herself. Which I am going to...
Yeah, that's correct.
Yep. Mother-in-law came to pay us a visit, and she decided to spend a few days with us to catch up. So mother-in-law...
It was a spur-of-the-moment thing.
Yeah, mother-in-law invited herself to their home. And
in that case, definitely not the asshole.
Yeah, not the asshole for that. Oh, boy. Okay. So, because we had to cut a story, I found another one.
Okay.
We still have 5.
Yay!
We have 2 more to go. Am I the asshole for answering my dad honestly when he asked if I would want to move out with my sister? Now, keep in mind, this was posted 3 hours ago. So there's not really any sort of there's not a whole lot of updates. There are some comments that are on it, but there's no overall judgment like at the top of the post like some of these have had.
I love my sister, but I wouldn't want to move out with her.
So here's the story. My dad got married 4 years ago. Before that, it was just him, my sister Delaney, 17 female, and me, 15 female. Our mom died when I was 3 weeks old, and Delaney was only 2, so we don't remember her, and Dad was single for a long time. 6 years ago, he met Jess, and they eventually got married, and Jess and her 2 kids, Bella, 16 female, and Robbie, 11 months, moved in with us. It was difficult. We hadn't lived together long when we were forced into a lockdown for COVID, and we were all up in each other's business. It was tense. It was awkward. I spent a lot of time with Delaney, and we play video games and stuff to pass the time. My dad and Delaney fought a bit because he wanted to know why Bella and Robbie weren't joining us, and Delaney would tell him we always had time together as sisters, and that wasn't changing because he got married. Bella wanted to be included, but she mostly wanted to be included with Delaney. She didn't really want me to hang out with her. She thought I should hang out with Robbie so she could get time with Delaney. Delaney didn't want that, and the 2 of them started fighting a lot. Ever since then, and this was like May 2020 when the fighting between them started, the 2 of them have grown to hate each other. It got really bad last year. My dad and Jess tried therapy to resolve things, and Dad took my sister aside a few times and told her she needed to try harder. But she told him she didn't want to try, and she didn't want to make a family work with Jess, Bella, and Robbie. My dad didn't really believe her at first, but the fighting got worse, and Then a few days ago, Bella said she was tired of us all living together because she thought she was getting a family, and instead Delaney refuses to let her be her sister. My dad asked Delaney how she felt and whether she liked them enough, even if she just thought they were okay outside of her and Bella's fighting to make it work. She said no. She said tolerating it would always be the best she could do. After some more talking, it was decided maybe Delaney should go live with our grandparents. I got mentioned at some point, and so Dad and Jess decided I should be asked what if I'd rather go with Delaney or stay with the family. The truth is, I would rather go with Delaney, and I said that. I told my dad I loved him, and I didn't want to leave him, but I didn't want to be apart from Delaney either. Dad wasn't too surprised. Jess was pissed because Delaney and I had fought a little before that as well, so she thought I would pick them. I told my dad I wouldn't fight over it, but if he wanted the truth, that was it. Jess told me afterwards I should have lied for their sake. Am I the asshole?
No, you're not the asshole.
Having a mixed family, growing up in a mixed family, is tough. I will admit to that. Like, me and my sister are full blood related. Me and my younger brothers are half blood. We're half siblings. And then I have a stepbrother who you haven't met. I haven't seen him in over 10 years.
Yeah.
But we always, growing up as a kid in a mixed family, it was rough.
Yeah, it's me and my half-sister Angie.
And especially at first because, when my dad met my mom and they first started dating, it was just me and my sister and then Kyle, my brother, right?
Yeah.
And he butted heads a lot with me. We both had this mentality of we were right and the other one was wrong, And we fought a lot. Like, there was a lot of fist fights between me and him. There's a lot of pushing and shoving. I actually have a small scar on my back from something that me and him got into a fight about. I punctured his eardrum with a kite rod. Yep. Like his eardrum. So he has a scar on his eardrum for that. Me and my sister fight like cats and dogs half the time that we're on a phone call with each other because we're just so hard-headed and so much alike. But the way that my parents put it was because me, Carolyn, and Kyle are so alike or so close in age, it was like we're a year apart from each other. It was like having a set of triplets, and then my two younger brothers are like a year apart, a little over a year apart from each other. And then she was like, and then my parents were like, and having a set of twins.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of fighting that happened between me and my siblings. Mainly because we are all hard-headed and we all like to think that we're right.
Y'all take after your mom.
Oh yeah.
Love you, Mom.
But that being said, there was never a point in time where it got to the point where we had to choose whether or not we were to keep living with our parents or going somewhere else and living. So I can't say that I understand that part. Like, our whole family motto is family comes first. Like, you may not like insert a sibling. You may not be able to stand them, but you still love them.
Yeah.
And you're still there for them. You still support them.
Yep, that's what family does.
Me and my sister fight all the time. 90% of the phone calls that we have is her and I going back and forth and arguing. Before one of us gets pissed off enough that we're just like, you know what, we're just going to hang up and we'll be done.
We'll call it a day.
But at the same time, she calls me. She's like, hey, I need your help. Give me a bit. I'll be on my way. If I randomly got a phone call one day and it's Kyle calling me, it's like, look, I know that we haven't talked in years, but I need your help with something.
It'd be the same thing.
Do you need to come out here or do I need to go out there?
Yep.
Either way, let's figure this out. My younger brothers, hey, we need I need your help with this. Or, my youngest brother, hey, I need your help with that. All right. Let me see what I can do, and I'll figure it out, and I'll be on my way. Like, that's just the way that's just my personal mentality. Now, my mentality might be different. It's more than likely it is different than any of my other siblings. But I would like to believe that if anything happened, I could call them up and be like, hey, I need your help with something. I need some backup. I need some support. I need insert whatever. I would like to believe that they would do the same thing for me.
I can't speak about Kyle because I don't know him, but the others I'd like to think so too. I mean, especially the boys. I mean, your sister I'm not 100% sure about, but if it came down to brass tacks, I'm pretty sure, especially if it had nothing to do with me, that she would be there.
Yeah. So, like, I don't understand it, but at the same time I do. Because you're these kids, and a couple years ago, what was it, 6 years, did I say?
I think so.
Yeah, 6 years ago. So, Delaney would have been 11, and OP would have been 9. That's Delaney, like, their mom passed away when Delaney was 2, and OP was 3 weeks. So, like, for a majority of their life, the only people that they had was dad and sister.
Each other, yeah.
So, and then all of a sudden, you're introducing another woman who's supposed to be a stepmom. She has 2 kids. One of them is probably your half-brother. And one of them is a girl from a stepsister from a previous relationship, and then older
you can't
sister,
expect everything to be 100% right away.
Yeah, well, even here's what got me to this mindset. Delaney, Jess wants to hang out, or not Jess. Stepsister wants to hang out with Delaney only. She doesn't want to have anything to do with OP. Well, they are. Delaney is, when the story was notated, Delaney was 17 and stepsister was 16. And then OP was 15. So they're like, all 3 of them are like within a year of each other. But stepsister only wants to hang out with Delaney and doesn't want to hang out with OP. Meanwhile, Delaney wants to hang out with OP. And, just because that's what she's used to. And now you have this random third person coming in and being like, oh, no, she can go hang out with the baby. Me and you are going to hang out. I'd look that person in the face and be like, fuck you. Either we all hang out or you and I don't hang out.
And you don't bitch.
I'll go hang out with my sister.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of, like, it almost seems like stepsister she's the cause of it. Like, she saw the bond that Delaney and OP had, and was like,
it's a jealousy thing.
If I can get them away from here, or if I can get them to not have this bond anymore, then I can have all the attention on me.
Yeah, and the thing is like, Dad needs to say something, because
he really does.
He wants to build this family and he wants them all to get along. I get that. I can respect that. But at the same time, you can't just try to force one of your children to spend time with your stepchild and be like, but she doesn't want to hang out with this person, so this child, so you're going to have to deal with that, and you're going to have to go hang. No, he needs to stand up for his children. Granted, this is his child now too, but he needs to stand up for his children and say, hey, this has been this way for X amount of years. If you guys want to hang out, that's fine, but that doesn't mean that she can't hang out too.
Yeah.
He needs to grow some balls and say something.
So the first couple of comments are saying not the asshole. Absolutely not the asshole. You said what you wanted to, and you don't owe your father and Jess to stay with them. If you want to stay with your sister, you do, and it was in the spur of the moment too. And you don't have time to process anything either, and you said what you meant, so not the asshole. Somebody responded to that. Her dad is giving up on his kids to keep his wife and stepkids happy. I can't even.
Exactly, and that's my point.
Somebody else said, not the asshole. Jess just told you that you should lie and stay with them for her convenience. She basically admitted that your feelings don't matter to her if they go against what she wants. That's not okay. I can see where Bella gets her attitude from.
She wants to monopolize the one sister's time.
Yeah.
Wants nothing to do with the other sister.
Yep.
Sorry. We come as a package deal. Same thing I told you.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, that would be like if you were like, nope, I want to spend time with only Bug because she's a little princess. So, good luck, boys. No, my kids all get treated the same. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, last story, and then we have an announcement to make.
You have an announcement because I have no idea what it is.
Yep. Well, it's actually, we'll get into it here in a second. Am I the asshole for not selling my house and giving my ex half?
Why? Why would that even be a question?
My ex, 37 male, and I, 36 male, have been together for 16 years. We never married or had kids, but we shared finances. At the beginning of our relationship, we were pretty much 50-50 on finances unless one of us fell on hard times and the other would step up. We started our own bank accounts, but then he added me onto his in 2011. 2014, he was trying to figure out what he was going to do when he lost his job. He tried all these different ventures that really didn't work out for him. It got to the point where I was able to claim him on my taxes as a dependent. From 2015 to 2019, I was carrying us. It got to the point where he stayed home and I was working 2 jobs and going to school. I struggled with setting boundaries and wouldn't confront him for not working. He hated his last job in 2014 to the point where he was always miserable and was very unpleasant to be around. I was too scared to rock the boat, so I just took it. My fault, I know. In 2017, I got a job at a bank and a gym. I went back to school to get a degree in IT. While working at the bank, I was able to get my credit from 580 to 690 by 2019. In 2019, before the housing market got crazy, we decided to buy a house. We found a house that we went through the purchasing process. Since I was the one with good credit and the job, we put the loan in my name. I came up with the down payment, closing costs, and even materials to update the home using one of my IRAs. After close, he finally got a job where he took over ownership of a business. This company needed a lot of remodeling. While he was doing all that for his business, I was remodeling the home, i.e. pulling carpet, installing new floors, painting walls, and installing new light fixtures. The house was outdated. Doing all this while working and going to school. He didn't help with remodeling the home, but that was because he spent all of his time at the business remodeling it. After the house was ready for move-in, he got mad at me for something and chose not to help with the move-in. The last 4 years in this house has been me covering all the bills, and now I am carrying the relationship. His business was failing when he took over, but turned it around so it can sustain itself, but he is not able to pay himself a decent wage. My checks would cover all the bills while his covered food and entertainment. Whenever something broke, it was me who fixed it. I could no longer take it and broke up with him. Now he's telling me to sell the house and give him half. He feels like I owe it to him since we had been together for 16 years. I told him I won't because I was the one who came up with the down payment, remodeled the home, and I have been paying the mortgage on my own. Also, I don't want to move. It's my first house in my name, and I paid for it. I have bank statements to prove it all. Common law marriage is not recognized in our state. Now he is saying I screwed him over in life.
No, he didn't. He's just a bitter ass that didn't want to help with the house or couldn't help with the house and got pissed because he got broke up with and didn't want to sell his home that he worked hard and paid for and remodeled. So, no, he's not the asshole. He shouldn't have to sell his home to give you money.
I'll agree with that. I mean, pretty much what it boils down to is ex-boyfriend is jelly. He's jealous because OP is able to have a home, it be in his name. He can tell him, hey, get the fuck out. This is my home, and you're not on the loan, you're not on the title,
Exactly.
You're not on anything. And he can't do anything but listen or potentially have the cops called on him. So I personally agree with he's not the asshole. Not at all.
Not at all. I mean, it's just like, it's like if I was to buy a house and we moved in and you didn't help with the bills, didn't help with the upkeep of the house, didn't help with anything like that, and then we split up and you'd be like, well, we were together for so many years, so you owe it to me. No, I don't.
No.
Just like the same if you were to do the same thing and I wouldn't be working, contributing, or anything like that. It's not cool to expect that he's going to just hand over half the money for a house.
Pretty much, OP's ex is trying to
be manipulative.
Get free money. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
He didn't
100%.
put any money into the house to make it nice or to buy it or whatnot.
Buy it and make it livable.
And now all of a sudden, he's like, well, I want this money.
Yeah, no.
You don't get the money.
Nobody
Sorry,
in a courthouse will even... They'll laugh him out the fucking courthouse.
Yep. So a couple comments with it. Not the asshole. You weren't married. He wasn't on the paperwork, and he barely contributed. You owe him no equity in this property. If he thinks you do, he can hire an attorney. OP responded. He tried to scare me with a lawyer, but I got my own, who told me that if he does try to take him to court, or if he does try to take me to court, to call him because he would love to destroy him. Somebody went ahead and said, if you have to sell the house and then give him half, then he needs to sell the business and give you half. Turnabout is fair play.
That's a good point.
That is a very good point.
I mean, especially if his business was failing when he bought it, and then he made it more lucrative, and he still didn't contribute.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
cool. If you're gonna take me to court and try to get half the money for the house, cool. I'll countersue you for the cost, half the cost of the business.
Well, OP did say that he can't afford. Like, yeah, he did turn it around. He saved it from going bankrupt. He didn't. He is not making enough to pay himself a decent wage.
Yeah, and that's not OP's fault.
It being lucrative, I highly doubt that. It's more along the lines of you make enough to survive.
Making enough to keep yourself afloat. That's about it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, at the end of that, your judgment.
He's not the asshole.
And my judgment, I agree with you. Not the asshole.
Yeah, no, because like I said, if he would have contributed evenly, that would be one thing. And I would be like, yeah, this OP is an asshole. But he didn't contribute to the house except for food and entertainment. Dude, you could have been using the money you wanted to use for entertainment to help pay bills in the house. Yep. And this would be a different situation.
Pretty much. All right, so we're at the end of the show now. Thank y'all so much for listening. The announcement that I was going to say
okay.
is about actually next week's episode.
Okay.
And you and I have talked about this, and I've said my part to it, and I'm going to repeat it so that way you remember it. With you having something stressful coming up next week, I thought about doing something nice. Holy crap.
Uh-oh.
Doing something nice.
Oh, I remember what this announcement is. It was a bad week.
So the announcement is next week we are going to be having a special another Reddit-themed episode, but it's a special one. Because next week, instead of doing an Am I the Asshole, we are going to be doing something that is going to be more...
Feel-good stories.
Yeah, happy, feel-good stories. To, one, distract you.
Yeah.
And two, to put out some good into the world.
Yeah.
Because if you're going around saying a bunch of assholes everywhere, you're never going to see, the flowers that could be planted beside... Anyways,
The flowers that could be planted in the assholes.
Sure, let's go with that. I wasn't going to say that, but you can.
Yes.
But that is, it's been something that's been tickling the back of my head here for a bit, because I do want, we talk a lot, like a lot of the stories that we cover are more of these dour, more of these dark,
drab,
subjects. Upsetting subjects. I feel that we need to have something that can cleanse the palate of a sort. And so next week's episode I am planning on doing a feel-good story style
Team
show.
Episode.
Now, whether it's all from Reddit or since you find a bunch of these feel-good stories online, if you want to find a couple, so that way you have something to share, that'll be great. But that's the plan for next week. So if y'all want to tune in next week, we will more than appreciate it. If you want to be reminded that yes, you too have feelings.
There is some good in the world.
Tune in next week, and we're gonna talk about some stuff that'll make your heart go no,
or cry like a baby.
Yep. But I think we're gonna call it here.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
Thank y'all so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. If you're listening to us on Spotify and you want to show Spotify that you like what you're hearing, just download the episode and let them know that you like what you're listening to, and they let us know that you like what you're listening to, which gives us a little more motivation to keep going forward and keep making these. If you would like to donate to the show, there is a link in the description.
You don't have to.
You don't have to if you don't want to. Any amount that is donated will get funneled back into the show to try to make it a little bit better. There are some things that I do want to look into getting program-wise to maybe just do better. And so if you do want to donate, feel free to. You don't have to. But if you want to, it is another way to show that you support the show and you like what you're hearing. But once again, thank y'all so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to love each other. And as always,
don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick, guys. Goodbye.
Bye.